So did Jesus truly rise from the dead? For many people, the belief that Jesus rose from the dead is a fundamental Christian belief. I'm recording this at the time of Easter, at a time when Christians really focus on that idea of Jesus rising from the dead. And it's a key belief in so many ways. It's set out in what's called the Creed. The Creed is the official statement of Christian belief. And if you read it through, it says very clearly, I believe, Jesus on the third day rose again. So it seems an inescapable fact that if you want to call yourself a Christian, you would have to believe that Jesus rose from the dead. And yet, strangely, that's not always the case. When I went through my academic training and I was learning how to do theology and the study of religion, one of the great and most influential thinkers was a man known as Rudolf Bultmann. And Rudolf Bultmann set out much of modern theological ideas in the second half of the 20th century. We would call it a liberal period of thought. And what he and subsequent writers were writing about was the idea that we live very much in a secular world, a world where beliefs in miracles and the idea of people rising from the dead just doesn't make sense. And if Christianity wants to remain relevant and acceptable in a modern society, it has to be prepared to accept that the beliefs which were set out all those years ago in a pre-scientific age no longer make sense. We need to reflect, if you like, things like the Enlightenment and the different beliefs that come from that time, which suggests that indeed it's impossible for somebody to rise from the dead. Therefore, Jesus didn't rise from the dead. Therefore, if you wish to call yourself a Christian, you have to think of some way around it. And Rudolf Bultmann's concept was what we call demythologization. He believed that you had to be able to take out from the Bible story the mythical elements, which were things which carried certain messages or stories, but which weren't meant to be taken literally, according to Rudolf Bultmann. So the idea of Jesus rising from the dead wasn't seen as a fact in the way that we would understand it. It was a message which carried a very powerful picture about the triumph of life over suffering and death and evil, but not in the literal sense of a body rising up as we may understand it. Therefore, says Bultmann, therefore say other people that follow his ideas, there is no resurrection from the dead, and you do not need to believe in it literally to call yourself a Christian. Now, for many, that's an impossible to accept belief. To call yourself a Christian, many would say, you absolutely have to hang on to the fact that Jesus rose from the dead. If you want to hang on to that, you have to come to other scholars such as Bishop Tom Wright, N.T. Wright. He was the former Bishop of Durham. And what he said on the subject was that there are certain key beliefs which suggest that, yes, indeed, Jesus did rise from the dead, quite apart from the fact it says so in the Christian creeds. The first and most obvious ones are the very fact that his disciples, those followers of Jesus, were ready within their lifetimes and within the lifetime of knowledge of Jesus to give their lives up for the belief that Jesus did rise from the dead. And that seems like a strange thing to do if it's just a mythical story that's not meant to be taken literally. Now, I was brought up very much with a liberal understanding, if you like. I came out of that Bultmann type of approach to learning about Christianity. I do find it very hard to think in terms of miracles and the literal nature of miracles. I find it particularly hard to think about the literal nature of somebody rising from the dead. And yet, the contemporary evidence about those followers of Jesus, about that empty tomb, about that Roman story, is sufficiently well attested that makes me pause and question and say, well, hang on a minute, the entire religion hinges on the truth of that belief. It is, if you like, the cornerstone and was right from the beginning. Hope you like that. Hope you found that interesting. Remember to like the video. Remember to subscribe to the channel. Take care. See you again.